भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
यावत् पवनो निवसति देहे तावत् पृच्छति कुशलं गेहे। गतवति वायुः देहापाये भार्या बिभ्रति तस्मिन् काये। बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः। वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः। काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्रः। कस्य त्वं कः कुतायातः तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रातः। सत्सङ्गत्वे निस्सङ्गत्वं निस्सङ्गत्वे निर्मोहत्वम्। निर्मोहत्वे निश्चलतत्वं निश्चलतत्वे जीवन्मुक्तिः। वयसि गते कः कामविकारः शुष्के नीरे कः कासारः। क्षीणे वित्ते कः परिवारो ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसारः। मा कुरु धनजन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमेषात् कालः सर्वम्। मायामयमिदमखिलं बुद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा। विनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः। कालः क्रीडति गच्छत्यायुः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशावायुः। काते कान्ता घनगतचिन्ता वातुलकिं तव नास्ति नियन्ता। त्रिजगति सज्जन सङ्गतिरेका भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका। जटिलो मुण्डीलुञ्चितकेशः काषायाम्बर बहुकृतवेषः। पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो युदरनिमित्तं बहुकृतवेषः। अङ्गं गलितं पलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डम्। वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापिण्डम्।
We'll chant verse 6 twice.
यावत् पवनो निवसति देहे तावत् पृच्छति कुशलं गेहे। गतवति वायुः देहापाये भार्या बिभ्रति तस्मिन् काये। यावत् पवनो निवसति देहे तावत् पृच्छति कुशलं गेहे गतवति वायौ देहापाये भार्या बिभ्रति तस्मिन् काये.
As long as breath lasts in the body, so long would there be enquiry of welfare at home. Once breath leaves and body decays, the wife fears the same body. Yavat, tavat is a idiomatic construction in Sanskrit. As long, so long. Yavat, tavat. This is a continuation of the thought that was given in verse 5. But verse 6, 7 and 8 form a thought pattern which culminates in verse 9 and 10. Verse 6, 7 and 8 indicate our attachment at the levels of body, mind and intellect level. Verse 6 talks about the attachment to body or indicates an attachment to body. Verse 7 indicates an attachment that's happening at the mental level. Verse 8 is talking about how intellect preoccupies itself in worldly attachment rather than what it should actually do. So that is the indication in verse 8. So in this verse he says, as long as breath lasts in the body, so long there would be inquiry of welfare at home. Again, Shankaracharya is talking about a very practical truth here. The body plays a limited role in our self-development. Body need not be ignored completely. Body should not be pampered beyond a point. Body has to be given that much respect as you would give a vehicle. Keep the vehicle in good condition. Keep it in good repair all the time, so that anytime you want to use the vehicle, it must be at your disposal. It must be ready. Exactly like that, body is a vehicle. The personality inside us, which is the jiva, which is the subtle body, that is the actual personality. When I say actual personality, that is what practically deals with the world. That is what is your experience, a real instrument of experience. Body is the house of all experiences. Without body, you cannot really contact the world. Therefore, body is being used as a vehicle, and also we have a good opinion or a good idea of the body because ultimately it houses the Atma. So it can be even worshipped as a temple. That's about all. But beyond that, there is no need for us to have a over attachment or over entanglement with the affairs of the body. See, why he is emphasizing like that is, most of the time our attention is upon our physical body. How much we do to pamper it, to take care of it. It is, again I am saying, it is not to neglect the body, but we must, the whole idea of Upanishads, the whole idea of Vedanta is to take us away from body consciousness. So he says, what is actually giving the value to the body? Yavat pavano nivasati dehe, tavat prichati kushalam gehe. As long as the breath is there, only then the body has a value, isn't it? So, the body has a value. If you preserve the body, let us say in the eyes, even after the body is dead, nobody is going to value the body. It is not at all respected. It is not at all, he could be a king, he could be a sannyasi, he could be anybody for that matter. It is not given any value. So what gives the value to the body is somebody who is sitting inside the body. See, when you go to a hotel in your car, the person who is standing at the gate, the security, he gives a salute. Now, who is he actually saluting? He is not saluting the car. When we are saying this in the seminar, they said, no, it also matters which car you go. Whether you go in a Mercedes car or a Maruti car, that elicits response from the other person accordingly. Even if you go in a Mercedes car, after you have parked the car, is he going to go and salute the car? No. The car that is coming in has a value only when somebody is there sitting inside the car. So the respect is actually for the person sitting inside the car. Car is just a vehicle. Exactly like that, you take the parallel. Body is just a vehicle. It is the jiva who is the rider inside. He is there as the individual inside. He is who is interacting with the world. See, the interaction in this class is also between our inner personality and your inner personality through the medium of body, through the medium of your body. So, the real, when I say real, vis-a-vis the gross body, the important personality is that which is inside. And breath forms part of that subtle body only. Okay, this breath or the prana is that which sticks the gross body and subtle body together. So one aspect of breath you can say is in the gross body, one aspect of prana is there in the subtle body. Once this joint, once this glue that sticks the gross and subtle body goes away, that is the time you say that person is dead. So that body has no more value anymore. Jiva has travelled somewhere. Where it travels, that's a different subject altogether. So the body falls flat as it were like a dead wood. That's all it is. It does not have any value at all. So he says that body has a value as long as the breath lasts inside. When that breath goes away, bharya bibhyati tasmin kaye. Even the wife fears the same body. Even the wife means she has been the closest to you. She has sort of enjoyed this body. She has been relating to this body. All this while she has been the closest to you who was in this body. Even she fears the same body. However much she may feel unhappy and sad, she will only make arrangements to be cremated. It cannot be kept for long. So if you keep it for long, he says very practically that the wife fears the same body. Swamiji was saying about one of his friends' experience in Bombay only. The husband died and the wife was not comfortable sleeping in that room that night, which was very obvious. So the son came and told Swamiji, this is the case, how should we console her, how should we counsel her? He said, obviously she will feel like that anyway. You ask her what the fear is. And whether he said it as a joke or real, I don't know. He said, what is the real fear? He says, the real fear is, what if he comes back? That's the real fear. So, that is the practical reality. However much close you are, you ask whether when I am going, whether you will come with me. It is not going to happen. It is afterwards that body is feared by his own wife. Human body is actually the least valued of all the bodies that you can think in the world. I mean, when I say a considerable portion of animals or birds or trees, plants, everything you think of, after their death, they have so much value. So, elephant, the tusk itself is, in fact, for the tusk, people are killing elephants. Rhinoceros, the skin of goat, the cow, everything. How much valuable it is. Human body is not that much valuable. One American professor, couple of decades back, he valued the human body to be of 98 cents. I don't know how. Maybe if you can use it to somewhat give donation of the organs which are functioning, all that's fine. But compared to all other trees or something, which as you say a teak tree falls, what is the value of the tree? So much value has been given to all other things in terms of usefulness. But we have no scruples in destroying other bodies to pamper this body, which is of not that much worth, which is not of that much worth at all. So he is asking you to reevaluate what is the value that you set to your body. It is in continuation of what he said in the previous verse. He says, when he lives with the infirm body, none would heed him at home. That's what he said in the last verse. It's continuation of the same thought. So your body has a value as long as it is useful to others. Then only they have you, the retinue and other things will follow. When finally it decays, nobody will heed to it. When the breath goes away, it absolutely loses its value. As long as breath lasts in the body, so long would there be enquiry of welfare at home. Once breath leaves and the body decays, the wife fears the same body. Verse 7, we'll chant twice.
बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः.
So long as childhood lasts, one is attached to play. So long youth lasts, one is attached to damsel. So long old age lasts, one is attached to worry. Who is ever attached to the supreme reality? Very famous oft-quoted verse of Bhaja Govindam, or at least Swamiji quotes it often in the lectures. Verse 6 was talking about how a person is attached to body. Verse 7 is talking about our emotional attachments at various levels, at various points of time. He ridicules the preoccupation of mind throughout our lives. He is viewing the life in 3 stages here. When in childhood, Balaha is a child, Tavat means so long as. As long as one is a child, as long as childhood lasts, one is attached to play. Krida. Play means toys, trinkets, or whatever is the playthings that you are attached with. Tarunastavat. As long as you are youth, you are attached to Taruni. Taruni is damsel. And as long as Vriddha, old age, is lasting, Chinta Saktaha. He is attached to worries and anxieties. And then Shankaracharya exclaims, when are you going to think of the Brahman? When do you really have time? He is putting a question mark there. So, it is very interesting, but if we look at our own lives, you ask anybody or even our own experiences, you can read. We all know intellectually that the human life is given for us to get preoccupied in the thought of the self so that we transcend this body, mind and intellect to reach the self. That is what this human life is given for. Otherwise, like any other life, we can exist. There is no speciality about the human life. Whatever the animals do, we also do. But whatever the animals do, we may do it little more refinedly. That's about all. Otherwise, building a nest or producing young ones or eating and self-preservation and basic instincts of life, all those things that we have, we may do it all with the introduction of money in our lives. That's all. There is no money factor in their lives. And so we do it in a different way, but more or less it is on the same lines. Birth, growth, disease, decay, death. This is all common for all the bodies, all the existence. So what is it that is so special about being a human that we consider ourselves highest in the pyramid of the living creatures? It is this faculty of thinking by which we can think in terms of what is beyond all this, and then a very few who are using that subtle intellect, who is able to conceive some reality beyond this transcendental, we can say they are real humans amongst humans. So that becomes a very small percentage. But even among them, if you ask, let's say, your friend about to come to this class or study the whatever you are studying or get introduced, let us be clear, they are also very keen, very interested. They are very intelligent also, as intelligent as we are. It's not that they can't understand. But it is just that this may not be in their priority list as of now. Just as we are giving this priority to the extent that we are relating to this now. it is not the life for us, to that extent we have not yet still gone. We are treating it, yes, you may come to class, you may do your daily study, to that extent you understand it, but a time will come where you will set aside everything and fully get immersed in it. Swamiji was saying his experience when Swami Chinmayananda was giving lectures on Bhagavad Gita in the 50s, when he had come down from the Himalayas and he was like a firebrand speaker, awakening everybody. It was well received everywhere. English lectures on Gita, and those so-called intellectuals who have moved away from our grounding, to them Gita knowledge is brought in English, and so it was quite a revelation, quite a sensation. So Swamiji, whenever he is in Chennai or wherever he could follow, he has been following Swami Chinmayananda. He said one of the lectures was, I think, 13th chapter or something, where he gave a beautiful introduction. 13th chapter is what we chanted in the beginning. 13th chapter and 15th chapter are the Upanishad level chapters in Gita. 15th and 13th are considered very, very subtle. So he gave a beautiful introduction that day. And during the introduction, Swami Chinmayananda said, as he was giving the background of the chapter and gentle introduction, he said, what are you doing in this world? You are actually wasting your time. Your only business in this world is to realize yourself, except that you are involved in every other business. Maybe the same words, maybe the same tone he has heard many times, but he said that day it struck me so deeply, that he became sort of restless or sleepless. When I say sleepless in a figurative sense, after that if this is not undertaken with priority, we are just missing something very important in life. Not very important, as Upanishad says, Mahati Vinashti. It is the supremely great loss that we are undergoing through. So, a time will come where it should strike us so deeply that it actually makes a paradigm shift in our life. It turns our direction completely and makes our focus so oriented towards that there is, you don't really bother about something else. Till such point of time, it could be a feel-good factor about the class. Very many people may approach class and studies in different ways. It could be that you are clarifying certain doubts. It could be that a good satsang, or it could be that nothing else to do. It's a good thing to attend on a Sunday morning. At various levels, people may relate, and we are not questioning the intention of anybody. Everybody is rightly intended, but the degree with which each and every person relates to the knowledge of the self is different. So it should hit deeply sometime, someday, that we drop everything else and pursue this. So you ask them, why are you not coming? Why don't you join? Yes, I'll come. Next week I'll come, or this time I'll come, or once he starts the next text I'll come. Like that they will say. Remember, these are, I'm not saying they are lying. It is just that the preoccupation of some other things is stopping them. Once you understand this at the depth of how it should be understood, you will drop everything and start pursuing this. We think that, let me just finish the schooling, let me just get a degree, then we will see about Vedanta. Now, let me get settled a little bit. I want a financial independence so that, this doesn't bother me later. Like that, then it goes there. Then once we get into the preoccupation of family, it chokes us. Then there is no really time for it. And at each and every point of time, it seems fully justified. And by the time you realize, anyway, after retirement, what am I going to do? I'll do this only. It doesn't come so easily that time. Because unless otherwise the practice of it is put in before, suddenly a person doesn't take to this the moment he has retired from the work. It doesn't come so easily. There was a survey. Nowadays, I don't know, MTV is not there. When MTV was at its peak in the late 90s, 2000, there was a survey that was conducted in Bombay as to what are the preoccupations when people get up early. Early in the morning, who sees MTV most was those who are above 60. See, above 60, they did not know what to do, but they had got up. They are not able to sleep. They have woken up and they are switching on the TV and watching MTV. So it really does not automatically come that you will automatically take to pilgrimage or Bhagavad Gita or something just after you retire or something like that. It is only a culmination of whatever we have been practicing throughout in some form or the other. So in this verse, he is taking pity and pointing out the preoccupations of an individual. This verse is not to be taken with cynicism that nobody thinks of Brahman. That's what he is saying. It's not like that. He is only pointing out the reality. A highly philosophical verse this is. Balas tavat krida saktaha. As long as a person is a child, he is caught up with playthings. You can see that as a small child, it will catch hold of the toy even during the sleep. It will not leave it. His cycle, even his brother could not sit like that. It could be a toy somebody else should not touch. So much attached to the toy world. Various types of games, various types of toys, and that is the life of a child. When does the child give up the toys? Rather, it doesn't give up the toys. The toys give the child up when the child gets into teenage. Slowly, the youth phase is starting to develop. And there he says, Tarunastavat Taruni Saktaha. Taruni is a damsel. You can say girlfriend, like that it is. But it is not just confined to the passion of a boy and a girl only. Youth can be here further taken as a phase where you are passionate about various aspects of the world. So, a person is passionate about name, fame, position, money, status, family, power. All these things are preoccupying you, and that is the time you have no time for anything else. You are preoccupied in going to office, you have to build empire, or you have to, dote the family. And at that time, really, who can have time at all? There's no time. So passion is just not confined to what is mentioned as a literal meaning of Taruni, which is one of the main preoccupations, but passion in every aspect of the world, acquisition, enjoyment, and each and every aspect of the world where we are preoccupied, and there that phase goes. And suddenly you realize that old age has come. And in the old age, he says, Vriddhastava Chinta Saktaha, very thought-provoking statement. What is this old man attached to? He is attached to his worries and anxieties. Constantly the mind is preoccupied with some worry or the anxiety, something to worry about. If there is nothing to worry about, they will worry about that also. That there is nothing to worry about it. That you cannot, it is more of an effect now. His mind, if it is not trained properly at a later stage, it really goes beyond one's control. Something or the other you need to worry. It could be my daughter's marriage, it could be this, it could be how you, or even if everything is settled, what will happen? There will be war there, there will be oil going away here, there will be something or the other. He has to constantly preoccupy his mind with worries and anxieties. And suddenly the old age is also finished, you are gone. Then he says, examine your life. When did you have time to think of Brahman? Swami Ramtirtha deals with it in a very beautiful way. A person actually, he is talking about this human life to be available for us only to think of God and realize Godhood. That's what this life is all about. So, one person comes to him and objects to this, and he says, sir, you calculate the time available. Let's assume on an average, even a person lives 100 years. Okay. You have to discount the first 15 years where he is a child. That child doesn't know anything, meaning he can't consciously do anything. And amongst the rest of the life, more than 1/3 is gone in sleep. More than 1/3 is gone in sleep. Then you take all the time that you were not well, sick, bedridden, or having headache, this, that, at that point of time when your body is aching and you are going through physical trouble, how is it possible to even think of God? Not possible. And then you take the time that is available in the day that you have to eat. Eating is a very important aspect. Eating, taking bath, all this daily course of activities are there. So he keeps on adding like this, and he finally comes to the conclusion that there is no really time for Brahman. Ramtita says, very correct, your calculation is very correct. And then he says, I'll give you some other calculation. He says, in this earth, how much is the water, ocean? Nearly 71% or 72% is ocean. The remaining just 28% is there. Amongst the 28%, so many mountains and hills and glaciers and ice, desert, so much land is there like that, which is absolutely barren. You cannot do anything about it in terms of cultivation or in terms of fertility. It's not possible. Then there are so much fertile land which are grasslands and which are forests, which are there only for animals. You know, amongst all the vegetation, 1/3 is grass. So what can you do there? And then finally, if you have other ponds and rivers and this and that, inward lakes and like Dead Sea and Caspian Sea, various things are within the land itself. If you remove all these things, where is really place for cultivation of food and eating? So we should all die, he says. Then that person says, what are you talking? Practically, if you see, the world is feeding us 3 meals. Not only us, every creature it is feeding. So much it can produce and so much it can feed is the practical reality. You keep your calculation aside, he says. Exactly like that, he says, you keep your calculation aside. You can talk about 1/3 going in sleep, so much going in childhood as a dream, all those things. You have enough time at hand to think of Brahman. You have enough time at hand for spiritual sadhana. It is just the question of reorganizing yourself. That is why Swamiji says in time management seminar, first of all, in the very first statement, he says, the title given is time management because that will only attract people, but there is no such thing as time management because time cannot be managed. Time is 24 hours for all. Can anybody alter it a little bit here and there? It is just not possible. So time management as a name is a myth. It's a misnomer. Time management is essentially work management. See, if it is related to the quantum of work that you do, then a person who runs a pawn shop, he comes home little late, 6 o'clock. Let's say who is having a 50,000 turnover business. A person who has 5 lakh turnover business should come at 8 o'clock. 50 lakh turnover should come at 10 o'clock. 5 crore turnover should never come home. Like that should be the parallel if you are quantifying the time and the work, volume of work. That is not the case. Invariably, we see that all of them come home late at the same time. So it has nothing to do with the quantum of work you do. It is to do with reorganizing your work in the given time because the time is 24 hours for all. It doesn't change even for any person, any great person or an ordinary person, whatever be the quality of that person, 24 hours is fixed for all. So who manages time better in that sense is who is able to manage the work better in the given time. And who is able to manage the work better is one who is able to manage himself. So time management boils down to work management. Work management boils down to self-management. That's how it derives. So if anybody says, okay, of course you can give tips, write in diary, point by point what you have to do. All this is correct techniques. And then you don't take phone calls during meetings. If you have set aside time for meeting, be in meeting only. All these are very practical and good techniques. These are all tips for us to reorganize ourselves. But the real thing is to understand your real self and organize your life according to the life's plan. That is where it comes. So, Swamiji's time management seminar is unique. Nobody talks in terms of to rearrange your life backwards. That's a very, very unique concept. In governing business and relationship, it is given. So, time is same for all. And as we discussed a few classes before that, Don't ever think that later we can see, because that later never comes. It will only lead to the next Janma. So very many great sages and saints, they say that at the fag end of life, we are not sure how our body will cooperate, whether we will be able to say even the Lord's name, or whether we will be able to do activities towards the Lord. Therefore, when I am fit, hale and healthy, let me do it. As a, what you say, like insurance, they are doing it. In judicial, they have this anticipatory bail. Like that, they anticipate and say, no, I don't want to get into that situation. If it is there, well and good, but let that practice be there when it is hale and healthy. So if we even take up whatever is the things to be done in the world, that it is that you have to have the normal experiences of the world, believe me, there will be no death of it. You will still visit places, you have all the experiences of the world. If we reorganize ourselves, it is the person who is committed to a higher ideal that he has time for everything. It is the busiest person who has time for everything. When we are not organized, anytime you call for anything, they say no time, no chance. Now only I have to do this, because each and everything is done at that moment what has to be done. So if we are able to plan ourselves properly, half the problem is solved. We don't invest time in planning and programming, because that requires some amount of intellect, that requires some amount of patience, objectivity to do it. Once the plan is set clear, you know what is the the corrective course of action. So it should go as per the plan. But otherwise, we go by whatever is the preoccupation at that point of time. And even in the youth, it is not only this. Immediately what I have to do? We wait till the last moment and file the returns. That is the priority. Don't disturb me now. And then what comes? Then yajna comes. Then don't disturb me now. Then this. So each and everything we do what comes for that moment at that point of time. With reference to even taking the body, if there are certain symptoms which are showing which needs to be immediately corrected, we don't do. When it ripens at a point of time when it is imperative, then we go and get to see the doctor and get admitted or whatever we do. So it is the question of being alert and not be indifferent or tamasic at those points of time. That's about all is the basic theme of planning. Then it comes, he gives a structure as to how to plan. That is a different thing. But this thought that I need to rearrange myself so that I utilize the time available for me in the most productive way, that thought has to come in first. Otherwise, those people, for whatever reason, they are pushed away out of bed early, but they don't know what to do. So they switch on the TV and watch. I'm not saying per se watching TV is right or wrong, but it is just that they are not aware of what to do. So he is only talking about these preoccupations here. In childhood, you are preoccupied with toys and trinkets. In youth, with all the passions. In old age, with worries and anxieties. When do you have time for truth? And as I said, at every stage, it may seem justified at that point of time. There can never be a time where you say, I'll finish this and do. Ladomia is a great poem by Wordsworth. In that, the hero, Protesilaus, he is a Greek prince or a soldier, and he is sailing to Troy in the ship with the army. And the prophecy is, whoever jumps into the Trojan soil first will be killed. This is the prophecy. And as everybody is, as the ship is nearing the shore, everybody is debating, thinking what is to be done. Protesilaus jumps first. He jumps first, knowing fully well what is going to happen, and in the process, he sacrifices his life for the nation. His wife, Ladomia, is very upset about it. She is too attached to her husband. In fact, the last 3 poems in the poems book is talking about the deadly nature of attachment only. Ladomia is a very philosophical poem, and we know the worth of Wordsworth. His words are pure Vedanta is there, and Ladomia is full of Vedantic concepts. Ladomia poem is talking about the wife's attachment to husband. Ladomia is his wife. Next poem, Andrea del Sarto, is talking about the husband's infatuation to his wife. Andrea del Sarto was a great painter whom the world doesn't know. The world knows of Raphael and Leonardo da Vinci and whoever it is. all the other great painters. But all these painters are saying how great Andrea Del Sarto is. That's the beauty. It is not enough if we say Tendulkar is great or Brian Lara is great. If Brian Lara says Tendulkar is great, then we know what's the value, because he knows the nuances of batting. So it really matters who praises. Tamahuhu Panditam Buddhaha, says Bhagavad Gita. Him the wise call a sage. Who calls you a sage? The wise person should call a sage. Then you are a sage. So these painters are Picasso and others. They are praising Andrea Del Sarto. Such a fine talent. Unfortunately, his talent was completely, he did not see the daylight, as it were, because of his preoccupation and entanglement with his wife. Ultimately, he did not enjoy the relationship also. He did not come out good in the painting also, or rather his talent was all wasted. Third poem is Sorab and Rustum, which talks about the infatuation or attachment between father and son. Ultimately, both lose each other. Very tragic poem. Last three poems are carefully selected, long poems. In that, Ladomia, Protesilaus jumps into the Trojan soil, gets killed in the process. Rather, he dies a glorious death. But Ladomia is not able to take it. She implodes and she pleads to the god that her husband be restored. And she says, after all, he went and died for a cause. There is no justification in taking his life. So because of her constant prayer, Jove, the king of gods, he says, he will give company of Protesilaus to her for 3 hours. 3 hours he will appear before you. That is the contract, that is the agreement. Mercury brings him in the form of an apparition. A figure of Protesilaus comes like a ghost. And the 3 hours, Protesilaus gives high Vedantic wisdom. He is trying to teach Ladomia about the truths of life. Very many points he says in that. He talks about what is true love, various things he says. And then at one point of time he says, you may think as to why I should jump, because there are very many things that are pending in this empire. He is constructing something, there is some project, this, that. He says, there will be always this unfinished hours. There will be always this. If you take any moment of time in life, you will always have certain things to be completed. So there is never an end to it. You can never say that only the child must come, only the child must get educated. Only if they are married, then every duty is over. No, then the grandchild. So it is a never-ending thing like that. So if you feel that you will finish all the duties and then take a full plunge after that, I am fully prepared now, it will never happen. He says the unfinished hours will be always there. Then what will happen? Who will build the hours? Don't worry. A higher cause is calling you. A higher cause is calling you. You be truthful to that. If you are capable of that, if you are yearning for it, you understand the value of it, you have to make that paradigm shift. That is what is meant by paradigm shift. Paradigm shift is not incremental level of our thought flow. It is a different jump in our thought flow. It is a different level of thinking that we subject ourselves to. And this verse also gives a beautiful indication as to how to define even childhood, passion and old age. Irrespective of the age, till whatever time you are involved in playthings, that is your childhood. Some people may even continue. And as long as you are caught up in any sort of passion which is making you run into the world, that is your youthful time. Whenever you have started worrying, that is where old age has already settled. So a person may not be old at 80, a person may be old at 40 also. The moment thinking, worrying and all these things preoccupies his personality, is already got into old age. A very beautiful indication. So long as childhood lasts, one is attached to play. So long youth lasts, one is attached to damsel. So long old age lasts, one is attached to worry. Who is ever attached to the supreme reality? Yes, sir.
Tower. 3 times we have the word tower, but yavat is not there. It's only because of meter and grammar or what?
No, not meter and grammar. Maybe in Sanskrit you can use that independently also. Yavat tavat is a general idiomatic construction, but sometimes tavat means so long as balaha. So that is understood there. Yavat balas tavat. So long as child lasts, like that. Yes, sir.
So on the subject you spoke about duties, how does one really define, okay, these are your duties which you must fulfill, and beyond that you're getting the strap of never ending, fulfillment of duties. So that's a line very difficult to draw. How does one do that?
See, there is only one duty in life actually. That only duty in life is to be really happy, to be really cheerful. There is no other really duty for us. To put it in technical language, our only duty is to find out ourselves. There is nothing else. When we say happy, we are looking forward to that permanent happiness, which is the real self. That alone is the duty, nothing else is the duty. Suppose we are talking about various duties in life, according to the stages that we are in, according to our own goals in life, all those will have a meaning and a real purpose of a duty only if we are able to align them to the real duty, which is to find out the self. So, let us say a child has a duty to study. He need not worry about duty to get his sister married or something like that. That's not his duty, his father's duty. Okay, he need not worry about that. As a householder, you have certain duties. And if you are really in a stage of sannyasa ashrama, that duties is different. A grahastha ashrama, to earn money is a duty. For a sannyasi, that is not a duty. So, according to our stages in life, according to your swadharma, according to the goals that you have set for yourself, these are the duties. Now, the question that we need to really ask is how do we set the goals? That will only define the duty. See, suppose, meaning at every stage, duty is self-created. It is nobody imposes the duty upon you. Okay. As far as the Shastras that talk about our niyatam karma, that is that your obligatory duty that you are supposed to do on a daily basis, on special occasional basis, all this is based on rina. Rina means a debt that you owe to the gods, to the ancestors, to the rishis. So therefore, your whole life is based on duty. Okay. That is far a better approach to life than a right-oriented life. This is my right, this is my right. To say that duty orientation is very good. And let's say if you are married, you have a duty towards wife, family. If you are not married, you don't have the duty. If you have a child, you need to educate it, all that becomes a duty. If you don't have a child, that is not your duty. So like each and everything that we create actually makes the duty along with it. Now, we are talking about a stage where you are even questioning as to why I should get married, or why I should get children, or why should I start a business, or why should I go to school. If you are able to align these activities with reference to the ultimate duty, which a guru says is to realize the self, then all these activities in the life gain a meaning, and therefore to fulfill it becomes your duty, because these duty are not just going to help you reach that next immediate step. Ultimately, it is taking you step by step to the reality. Bereft of that vision, when we take upon duty, what happens is, slowly, without our knowledge, the shift happens from the work or the duty to I who is doing the duty. Therefore, the duty itself creates a lot of pressure and burden upon us. Nobody is really happy doing the duty. Happy in the sense they feel pressurized by the duty. So that becomes an obstacle, and then we want to run away from the duty, which we really cannot, because you yourself have created an entangle. Swamiji says it is like a Frankenstein, a monster type of a robo created by a scientist. Having given life, the robo comes and catches the throat of the scientist only. Similarly, we create duties and the duty bosses over us. So there is no such thing as this is the line, after this, this. In other words, you are trying to segregate whatever is your worldly duty and then I'll come to spiritual duty. Nothing like that. The only duty is to realize the self. The worldly duties gain that much relevance and significance as long as you are oblated to the Supreme Self. You take that final stance finally. If this takes me to the self, I do it. Otherwise, I don't do it. That is correct duty. If you are able to say, suppose if you have business vasanas, you have to do business. That's your duty. You are exhausting the business vasanas so that it is taking you closer to self. That must be the aim there. Then it becomes a very happy duty to perform. So in that sense, you lifelong you have to continue doing duty only according to the stages, according to the level, according to the role and goal of your life.
So then how do I ensure that I am not becoming an escapist? Because then you need a very high level of intellect to understand okay, this is your final goal in life and you have to perform certain duties to reach the final goal. So at times you say, okay, this is not in alignment with the final goal. You start escaping certain duties or become an escapist.
That's what I'm saying. It cannot be, it is not that it is not in alignment with your final goal. In that sense, then it doesn't qualify to be a duty. See, suppose you say that, just to take an example, I don't know what to say. Suppose there is a unconnected friend or whom you had contacted through some other thing and he is calling you for a trip abroad for 30 days and you want to satisfy him, okay, and then you go and or attend a destination wedding somewhere, whatever it is. All these things also we may be doing in the name of the duty, or some people do it in the name of duty. Not that I want to go, but it is like a duty that I have to, he attended here, so I have to go and attend there. All this is done in the name of duty. But all these even comes into the question or picture only when we don't define as to what really I should do. That is why when I talked about time management, I said once you have the life project set and then from there you work backwards, you are so sure of what to do now. What is my next step? What is my next step is not based on what should I do now, what next year, what next week, next year, like that. It is what should I be at the end of my life? What should be in the next 20 years? What should be in the next 10 years, 5 years, 1 year now? So when it works backwards like this, each and everything falls into place as to what is your, even if you say, let's say, I need to fully dedicate myself to writing books, okay, for which let's say I need to settle my family in a way so that that doesn't disturb me, okay, for which first 5 years I'll work hard and earn that much money. This is also directed towards that final goal. Then it becomes a duty. When I do that, I don't try to get myself deviated here and there. It becomes a very important duty. It is not I'm escaping, but I'm only aligning my present duty with reference to that duty. So there's no, and in the process, it is not that it's a whole monotonous way of life that it's duty, duty, duty. Actually, performing duty is a way of pleasure in itself. And in the process, you will meet all experiences in life also. It is not that you will be denied any enjoyments or experiences in life. You will get everything in life, but you are very much happy in doing what you ought to do. That is the process here. So duty is that way self-created.
I think this can be put very well in perspective by the duty of Jai Vijay. When they chose, and in terms of what you are saying is that, is it taking me to self-realization? I think a context is also how fast.
No, that is the context of that story is that mumukshatva to get back to the self. That is the starting point. But if you see the life of Jaya and Vijaya, Ravana and Kumar, that cannot be called as a...
Only perspective from that.
So, but the point is what, in other words, if you say that is even Ravana's bhakti is called as a Virodha bhakti. Virodha bhakti means in terms of being an opponent, he thought of Rama more than anybody else. Okay, Kamsa was thinking of Krishna more than anybody else. But we cannot think of God like that.
I am only thinking from the perspective of Jai Vijay at that stage.
At that stage, but that has nothing to do with duty, I am saying. That is only the context of that story is with reference to your spark to reach the self at any cost. Here, duty is the activities that you do to go there. So, in terms of the life that we see in terms of Jaya and Vijaya later, that cannot be taken as an example.
No, I am not taking that life. I am speaking specifically from that point of time, in that context, that they are seeing that whatever takes them to the self-realization the fastest.
Correct.
I am not going in because if we
see, whatever will take you to the fastest to the self is your thought on God, and I would say if you are able to even meditate 6 hours at a stretch, you will get that. So, but will you say to meditate is my duty now? Or it all deals with, it is your capacity, capability and your level of your vasanas, everything. So, to do karma yoga is the duty. You understand? So, it is not necessary. Fastest for whom? That is the question.
That is right.
So, that way that applies for all.
Yes.
So, that is not the point of the story. The story's context is the thought that how I will get back to self must preoccupy your mind. That's about all. Duty is what you perform in the world to reach there. In that sense, that story has a limitation. The context of the story is that the constant thought must be there that how should I get back to self. That's it. So, even in our lifetime, that is the only thing, that when you are aware, all the other duties I am saying becomes clearer or becomes makes more sense for us. We'll chant verse 8 twice.
काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्रः कस्य त्वं कः कुतायातः तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रातः काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्रः कस्य त्वं कः कुतायातः तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रातः.
Who is your wife? Who is your son? Extremely wondrous is this terrestrial attachment, samsara. Whose are you? Who are you? From where have you come? Oh brother, reflect well on that truth here. This verse points out the absence of intellectual inquiry, meaning intellect is preoccupied somewhere else. That's all it means. Verse 6 indicated something to do with the body attachment. Verse 7 talked about the mental preoccupation, somewhere attachment. Here it is at the intellectual level. These are the questions that we need to ask, but the intellect is doing something else. Kate kanta kaste putraha. Kanta means wife, putra means son. These two can be symbolic of all relationships. Wife is one relation who you look up to for comfort. Son is one relation, let's say, who looks to you for comfort. So, in that sense, all the relationship is give and take, complete of who you are dependent on this way or that way. So, wife and son that way completes all relationship. Not just wife and son. Wife represents everything that you are wedded to. Whatever you are married to is your wife. So, extended meaning of wife is that whatever you are completely preoccupied and entangled with. A man may be not married, but he is wedded to politics. He is wedded to art. He is wedded to sports. Anything that you can be married to is your wife, if you take an extended context of the word wife. And then son is the product of the wedding. That means what comes out of that relationship is the son. So with politics, if you are wedded, power is the son. Art, you are wedded, the painting is the son. Or some whatever, your composition is the son. Sports, you are wedded, the trophies and other things. Whatever you get out of it is the son. Samsara. This unintelligent relationship that we create with reference to all this wife-son is called as samsara. In Bengali also they use the term samsara, like for family. It generally refers to the family or generally refers to the world. But samsara refers to all the unintelligent relationship that we get into. That is our world. World is what you interact with. World is what you relate with. Samsara has no equivalent English translation. It means the entangled relationship that we get into in an unintelligent way by which we bind ourselves, which becomes then difficult for us to extricate from. That is called as samsara. It is like a lotus plant with its the leaf and the flower, which looks so beautiful on the surface of the water, But the stems that are inside, it is so entangled, sometimes people go and get caught in it. You may not be able to come out of it. It's like that. The samsara looks so beautiful from outside, but the moment you get into it, it really catches your leg. And usually when we realize the depth of the samsara, it is already neck deep water. That's when we realize that is the nature of samsara. That is how we can probably understand samsara. So traditionally samsara is equated to a forest or an ocean. Very many examples are given in throughout Shastras as Bhavasagara, like that and all there. See, forest is very enchanting and interesting. It gives nice smell. Bees are there, humming is there, woods are there, nice breeze is there. So you slowly get into the forest, and then before you realize you are caught deep inside the forest, you don't know which way to go, how to get out of the forest. It's pitch dark, and then the same forest shows wild animals, snakes, poison, thorn, everything is there. But it slowly draws you in. As you are caught up inside, it reveals its full nature. I am not saying forest is bad, but it has both the things. It has both the things, and then other nature is seen. By the time you realize you are deep in it. Similarly, seashore is very pleasant. You enjoy seashore. You can play with waves. Everything is good about it. But you go little inside, it's very deep. You do not know how to extricate yourself. Can be as big as ocean. The depth and the length of the ocean is not measurable from the surface. We can't say like everybody is married and everybody is caught up in relationship that it could be necessary. It can be, I don't know. But be very cautious about any relationship. The idea is to be objective in all relationships. You can use all these institution of marriage and various other things, Swadharma, everything, only as a stepping stone to move forward. But we get caught up in it so badly because of our unintelligent contact. That is what is said here. So he says, Samsaroyam ativa vichitraha. Vichitraha means it's wonderful. Wondrous. Wondrous means you can't understand. That's what is wonder. The definition of wonder is that which is beyond your intellect. When a rocket goes up like this, a rocket scientist may understand it. But for all of us otherwise, for a school child, it is a wonder. Because he has seen only everything come down to earth. Suddenly one goes up, how is it possible? There's a science behind it. But if my intellect is not able to understand that science, it's a magic for me. That's called as wonder. So, this samsara, when and how we got into it, can we really start at a stage where we are not getting into samsara? Meaning as a child itself, can we take certain precautionary measures by which, because the moment we are born itself, we are born into a family only, right? As though the bondage in the born in captivity lecture, Swamiji says your bondage starts from the womb only. When you are in the mother's womb, from there it starts. So it's really a wondrous thing. And more wonderful is how some people were able to realize it and get out of it. That is even more wonderful. We just don't realize. And before we realize, we see that, as I said, it is too much time, energy and every resource is drained out. And we come to a question mark whether we can be saved at all at this point of time. That type of a wonder it is. It is really vichitra. And all this relationship that is there, think about it. We will continue in the next class. All this relationship, be it wife, son and other relationships, father, mother, wife, father-in-law, mother-in-law, all this relationship is based on your existence. So in this verse, he says, start with the question, who really is your wife? Who really is your son? You claim to be this person to be your wife. On what basis? See, that person has come into your life after 20 years or 25 years, whatever. He has no connection whatsoever with you. You tied a knot or exchange rings and you say from now on it's a wife, and you catch hold of her or she catches hold of you in that possessiveness, and in that product something comes. Examine all these things. What is your real contribution in all these things which you say? All this relationship is based on the foundation of your existence. Only if you are first bound to this body, based on this only all other relationship comes. So when you ask these questions, it leads you to the very primeval question. So, whose are you? Who do you belong to? He's first asking the question, who's your wife, who's your son? Do you really belong to these relationships? Whose are you? Then he asks the question, Kaha? Who are you? That is the ultimate question. Where have you come from? None of these questions we even bother to ask. If we ask, there's no answer. And yet, we feel extremely satisfied with the relationship and we get into what he calls as complacency. So, lovingly he says, Brataha, oh brother, think well, deeply about this. We'll continue next class. Om Paramashikara.
Om Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.